We'd like to welcome Josh Jenkins to our pulpit this morning. We trust the Lord will use him as he shares an update. And he's going to have a Q&A time, so if you have questions, please don't hesitate to ask. Welcome.
Well, my voice has been a little messed up the last couple of weeks, so bear with me. And please interrupt anytime you want and ask questions. You don't have to wait till the end. I tend to ramble about things that I assume people understand. But who is not familiar with His Mansion Ministries? Well, since you're all familiar with His Mansion, I'll just skip that.
Review, Joe. Review a little skip.
Okay, so His Mansion is a year-long residential recovery program for people who suffer with drug and alcohol addictions, history of sexual abuse, trauma, pornography addictions, basically any type of life-controlling issues that are going to hinder you from living a normal, healthy life and following Christ. It's different than most like 12-step type programs. We don't focus so much on the addiction side of things as we do focusing on discipleship and drawing people toward the Lord. Because when you're walking with the Lord and you have a good relationship with Christ, those other kinds of things tend to just start to fall away. Does that make sense? So, any questions?
At the mansion, do you, like, you're the sole proprietor, like the holder of that, like the one who started all of that? Question one, and the second thing is, like, do you have, like, experts in these particular titles that you suggest of possible struggles that will help these people that are actually at the mansion, or do they come in, or how does that work?
I'll start with your first question. I am not the proprietor of His Mansion. His Mansion has been around for 51 years now. It started in Connecticut in an actual like Victorian mansion. And I couldn't tell you when that place burnt down, but it burnt down and they wound up moving up here to Deering. And they no longer have a mansion. It is just a sizable property with 18 buildings. And so, no, I am a little too young to have proprietary. It's such a thing. I don't know how to answer your other question. Maybe you could break it down a little bit. I don't.
Is it strictly like the addiction part of it, people are struggling for whatever, the reason may be alcohol, any kind of
Right.
whatever. And is it strictly by the Bible and having the Lord strengthen them and take them away from these things? Or do you have, like, from society, like your professionals in those specific subtitles that come in and help? How does it work?
Okay, so it is all faith-based and biblically based. It's not, we don't do 12-step programs or go through like, I can't say we don't do addiction counseling, but what we do is there's a blend of individual counseling, group counseling, classes. It's like a 3-phase program that they go through, and physical work, basically. The place is a functioning farm, so we have 18 buildings that need to be maintained, cleaned. We have a couple acres of garden. We raise hogs and beef, and we burn 300 cord of wood a year, so we do a lot of wood processing.
Do they only work there, or can they go out and?
They only work there.
That makes sense.
Yeah, it's a pretty closed off
Yeah, that's good.
type of community.
So they actually live there. They live there for a period
It's a year-long program, and for the most part, some people, if they make it through a phase, the phases are 4 months long. If they make it through a phase and we believe that they have not gotten what we expect them to get out of the program, they will repeat a phase. So some people will stay for 16 months, but yeah.
I have a question. Is this just men, women, mixed is my first question. My second question would be what is the, like if I knew somebody who may actually fit this program, what does the admission process look like? And my third question would be, is there a following once they complete their, whether it's 12 or 16-month program, do you continue to follow them for a period of time after?
Question one. I'm gonna try to remember all
I will
these.
remind you.
It's a co-ed program. Most of it is separate. I think in their discipleship phase, which is the third phase of the program, they blend them back together. Generally for 18-year-old to 40-year-old. The reality is when you get much older than that, you got a lot of young bucks who are, overseeing certain parts of the program, and it's a little bit harder for older folks to stomach that, if that makes sense.
Yes.
Second part?
Second part was the
Oh.
to be admitted, or I don't know what words you guys use, but, what does that look like? Like, do you screen them? Do you?
Yeah, people generally get screened first. You can go on our website, which is hismansion.com. There's an application process on there. Then they'll have an interview, and if it seems like they're a right fit for the program, then they'll be admitted. We generally have intakes once a month.
So how many people do you have there on average?
I'm gonna get into that in a little bit.
The third question was, once they, have completed the program.
Yeah, aftercare. So currently our aftercare is kind of lacking, to be honest with you. There are things in the works that we're trying to figure out on how to continue to minister to people after they leave, because it's not easy. You live in this bubble for a year and then get put back out on the streets, back in old situations and back with families that can be unhealthy, and sometimes it works out great and sometimes it doesn't.
Well, and that's why I had asked, because, you had mentioned that it's not a 12-step program, and there are meetings all over the place. Doesn't matter where you go for,
Right.
let's say AA, so that's why I was curious, when they do get put back into society, what resources that they may have.
Yeah, we're working on it.
So,
Answer.
so just to add a thought here, that once they complete the program, they're well-trained to follow Christ, not follow after things of the world. And depending on how mature they are in their faith, they can be successful. So they're given tools to find a good church to go to find a job, etc. Not just, well, you're done, see you later. And if you were to compare His Mansion to like Teen Challenge as an example, I would say that His Mansion has less, what's the word, recidivity, is that the word? Less apt to go back to the old lifestyle than Teen Challenge does. Teen Challenge does not give them the tools to follow Christ the way His Mansion does. That's my
Yeah,
personal opinion.
it's hard to get through the program. Like, it's not the kind of program that you can just kind of skate your way through, and as long as you play the act, you can get through, because we can generally see right through that. It's a lot of hard work, and there winds up being a lot that they need to take on themselves when it comes time to leave. Like, they need to have not only a heart for the Lord, but they need to find a home church. They need to find a group of people that they can be in community with in order to be successful. Because when you leave and you just isolate and you're not finding a church, it's very easy to fall back right where you were. Yeah. Shauna.
So do they, is this like a second step where they have to be kind of, I guess, dried out first, and then they can go to this mansion, or do they go like, say if I was an alcoholic, I said, I'm done, can I just go straight to this mansion, or is there another step before that?
Generally, we prefer people detox before they come. But if you go through the application process and the interviews and they feel like you're going to be a good fit, the first month in the program is what we call an induction phase, which is basically where we're feeling each other out. And if we feel like after that first month that you're not ready for it, or you're, I don't know how to put that. But yeah, if it's gonna work, it's gonna work. If it's not, it's not, you know what I mean? But I've been there 11 years now, and I don't think I've seen more than one person leave after their induction phase.
Josh, was this first started by Christians that wanted to help these young people, or was it a Christian organization that was the umbrella, and you have a board, or how did that?
When it started, it was 3 guys who just had a heart for the lost. And so they got together and found this property and started a program. Currently, there is a board of directors because it is a nonprofit, so there's a hierarchy. I guess that's not the right word for it, but there's a hierarchy to it. You know, it is an organization now. But when it first started, it was just 3 guys and their wives in a house trying to help people out.
Were they able to move to New Hampshire, or did they pass it on?
One of them is a silent partner,
Okay.
and 2 of them came out to New Hampshire and lived on the property for a while. Stan Farmer, who was, I'd say, like the main driver of the ministry, retired, I don't know, 10 years ago-ish.
What type of people are on your board? I mean, are they all different, expertise, or just love the Lord?
I know very little about the board,
Okay.
honestly. I think they keep us, there's a distance between those of us who work there and the board, so.
Okay. But you don't, like, have meetings with them and they say, let's proceed, or do something?
Now, our senior leadership does.
Okay.
They have meetings monthly or bi-monthly or something like that, but
You just do what they tell you to do and you're out of it?
yeah. I'm a builder and a wrench turner. That's what I do. So when it comes to the more administrative side of things, I'm pretty well hands off of that.
But everything seems to just run well and.
Yeah. So we have our CEO, who had been our CEO for the last, well, he was a CEO for about 7 years. He left about 1.5 years ago. So we have 2 new men at the helm running the show, and they seem to really have a good, solid heart for the Lord, for the ministry, for the lost. And I think they're driving it in a really good direction. Better than I've seen it in all my time there. So I like this, all the questions. This takes a lot of pressure off of me. Yeah.
I was wondering about non-believers, since you have a program that includes teaching about.
So That is a question that comes up a lot. It is not required that you are a believer to come into our program. But in the long run, the program's not gonna work if you're not a believer. If you're not chasing after the Lord and finding your hope and identity in Jesus, it's just not gonna work. Because that's where we find our hope and where we find our identity. You know, and I don't want to get theological. As a person who believes in the elect, I believe that if God draws you to His mansion and to that property, you're meant to be a believer. That's the way I see it.
Just, is it like a nonprofit organization? You strictly depend on, like, say, donations like us as missions through the churches and surrounding areas to keep it
Yeah.
functioning? Plus, it's a working farm, you said, so all hands aboard as far as that goes, right? To begin with, to keep the inner structure going, as well as having exterior monies coming in, those two?
Yeah, so we don't take state government money of any kind. And the program is basically free for the residents. So what we ask of the residents is to have a sponsor that takes care of, there's like an upfront cost of like $500 or something, which includes a flight home in case they decide to leave. They basically need someone who's gonna help cover their toiletries and stuff like that. That's really all it costs. It's basically a free program. And we rely generally on churches and individuals who have a heart for what we're doing, and that's how it is funded. As far as the farm goes, we are not self-sustaining, but semi, you know what I mean? Like, most of our meat is raised on the property, but we don't sell anything. We make our own maple syrup. We don't sell any of that. Like, we rely on God and His faithfulness to support. Yeah.
You are a working farm. The people that come there are the workers of the farm.
Yeah.
Everybody gets that type of a job.
Yeah, basically. I mean, the women generally take care of the kitchen work and keeping buildings clean, and they help out in the gardens, and the men do a lot of the firewood processing and animal care, that kind of stuff. Yeah.
Do doctors recommend his mansion?
Do who?
Doctors and psychiatrists and what?
Most wouldn't, no.
No, I was just wondering if they recommended, if they knew about his mansion. And the reason I ask is because my PCP, my personal care doctor, he has a special room before his day starts, a prayer room. And he and all his nurses pray before they take care of their patients.
Mm-hmm.
And then at the end of the day, they go and give thanks. So I was wondering if, his mansion is well known out there.
What you're describing is a rarity. Yeah, I would say most psychiatrists, psychologists, and people out there would have big issues with what we do. Because it doesn't rely on medicine, and it doesn't rely on psychology so much as it does on hope in Christ.
But there's a lot of doctors out there like mine that are believers, and I was just wondering if, if that was an option. I mean, it is an option.
I mean, if they know about it and they want to refer people, that would be a wonderful thing, but
I didn't know.
as far as that being a regular thing we experience, that, no.
Yeah.
I wouldn't say so.
So just to give us a bigger picture, have you ever heard of George Mueller?
Yes.
George Mueller ran an orphanage, multiple orphanages, never asked for money from anybody. Just prayed that God would provide. And he did. All those orphanages he had were full to capacity, every need was met. His mansion operates on the same type of background, used to.
Used to.
So its foundation is in the brethren. So when we talk about whether they're getting support from other places, it's basically your word of mouth, not their word of mouth so much. Getting people aware of what's available. And so that's what gives them the opportunity to serve those who come their way. Because you've talked about it. You know about it, so you've recommended to an individual or individuals what's going on.
So, on that note, we have moved away from the George Mueller style of stuff. So, I don't know how many of you get our newsletters, but we actually started putting in our newsletters needs that the ministry has, and that's kind of a new thing for us. And it seems to be working out well.
So
But
is it for like, just like New England or from like all over? Or-
all over,
All over, okay.
all over, yeah.
And is there like generally like wait lists and stuff? I know you said you do admission stuff every month.
So, I'm gonna back up just a little
Okay,
bit.
sorry.
I'm gonna talk, cause you're onto something that I wanted to talk about.
Yeah.
What everybody loves talking about, and that's COVID. So when COVID hit, it wasn't like immediately clear how that would affect the ministry, but a lot of our like recruiting efforts and finding residents and servant leaders and people to come in really was focused on visiting churches and colleges and things like that. And when everything shut down, our recruiting efforts basically were non-existent. So over like the next year, our resident numbers have dropped drastically. So as we're standing now, we're at like a third of our capacity. So that's one thing you guys could definitely be praying about is, I mean, you can just look out in the world and see the need for it. There's a massive need for it. And there's just very few people coming in. I think right now we have 11 male residents and 4 female residents. Something along those lines. But running at like full capacity, which would require other things more than just residents. But we could house up to 30, 32 male residents and like 16 female residents. And yeah, we're nowhere near that. It's like a ghost town.
I think we all know somebody that needs some help.
We all know people that need help. Yeah.
So do you guys get you said you process your own wood and everything, do you get the wood off the farm or from other places, or?
We buy truckloads of like log length stuff and buck it up and split it from there.
So if somebody had
we-
trees they were cutting down, would you?
Yes,
Okay.
we would want them.
Just don't let Mike cut it. Don't Mike cut it. Don't let Mike cut it.
No. Mike's not allowed.
But yeah, we cut some off the property, but it's to cut the volume we need, it's unsustainable. We've got, 300 acres of wooded area, which is nowhere near enough to cover what we would need to cover, you know what I mean? But
Is it open to the public, like as far as if we could do a tour and check out the place?
sure. Yeah, if you wanted to do that.
If it would be a bother, show up and we're just checking it out, disturb it.
I mean, It's on a public road. You can drive through there anytime you want. If you want an actual like guided tour of the place, I'm sure I can show you around. But yeah, you want to drive right through there, go right ahead.
What type of qualifications do your people that, do the lessons and the, things like that, are there any qualifications that you require? Besides loving the Lord?
I mean, that's qualification number one. But, I mean, over the years, we've had lay counselors who have just, like, our main male counselor is a guy who has been with the ministry for 45 years. I mean, he's been there basically since the beginning. And, all of his like counselor training and stuff basically happened on the job, but we've also had, trained counselors who have worked there. The staff turnover is pretty regular, just because ministry's hard. But preferably we would, especially for counseling, we would have people who are licensed, but
So not necessarily like Christian teachers that have a degree or anything like that?
not necessarily. I feel like experience, I don't know, Dave, you might know better than me, but experience, I think, counts more. Maybe.
Probably, I would think it was the 4 years of ministry that I had that they looked at more than the non-accredited Bible school degree that I had.
If I remember right, to volunteer there, you have to commit to a year, is it?
Depends on what you're doing.
Okay.
So, and this is another one of the things we need desperately is more servant leaders. So a servant leader is someone who comes and spends a year, sometimes a year and a half. And they live in the dorms with the residents. They work. The servant leader program is a program in and of itself that helps train people into and for ministry. But it's used in tandem with our resident program. So they live in the dorms with the residents. They basically do everything with them. They live their life with them. They're there for support, prayer, guidance, discipline. But that's a massive need that we have right now. So if you know any, usually they're younger. I say younger. I'm getting old, I guess. Yeah. Basically, they're generally college-age guys and gals who come in and want to spend a year either learning to get into ministry. A fair amount of our servant leaders come out of our resident program. So once they graduate, they want to spend another year serving and helping the next class of guys come or gals come through. But with our resident numbers being down as they are, that has drastically impacted the servant leader program as well. So please be in prayer for that.
What's the ratio for the servant leader to the
Well,
residents?
I don't know what an ideal ratio is, but currently in our women's program, it's basically 1-to-1 the way it is. I think it's 3-to-1 on the guy's side currently, 4-to-1 on the guy's side. He's in charge of the servant leaders, so.
Can you introduce them?
So, Pastor wants me to introduce you guys. This is Dave and Kayla Wargo. They've been with his mansion for 10 months, about. And they've been a wonderful addition. I'm not just saying that because they're here. But Kayla runs the women's work crew and David runs the servant leader formation. Is that what they call it?
How long have you been there?
Almost 11 years on staff. Yeah.
You were there as,
I went through the program as a resident back in 2007 because I was a lost addict myself. Yeah. Changed my life. Almost 16 years clean now.
are there any more people like you coming along that you know of, that are their patients now?
That'll stick around. Who knows? Yeah.
You had said that the people with addiction have to go through some kind of intervention to get clean prior to them entering his mansion. But then now we have to take some kind of medical intervention, right, for proof of
No,
work,
not generally. I mean, it depends. Like, we prefer you not be going through active withdrawals when you come into the program because you're gonna go right to work. You're not gonna spend weeks laying in bed, you know, so we typically expect people to detox before they come. But it's a gray area. You know what I mean? When I came into the program, I did not detox first. And I had to just suffer through it and work every day and go to classes just as I was. Yeah, I mean, when it comes to things like heroin and methamphetamines, that kind of detox, while is difficult, isn't gonna hurt you. I mean, isn't gonna kill you. Like, when it comes to alcohol and benzos, that kind of stuff, those kind of detoxes will kill you. So it's a case-by-case kind of thing. But yeah, that's a gray area. A lot of people come in using right before they walk in the place. Because they, you know, I did. It's just, you know, it's the mind of an addict. It's how it works. Yeah. Anywho. I've already touched on all the stuff I wanted to touch on. So I can tell you there's certain needs that his mansion has currently. So we're looking for a new road sander for sanding in the winter. Winter's coming. We are looking to buy a dump truck for hauling wood. So if you know anybody selling a dump truck, cheap. We're looking to update our game room, so we have a game room on the property. So when these guys and gals have free time, they can go play some ping pong and shoot pool. But we're looking to update the stuff in there. So if you got any stuff you're trying to get rid of, let us know. So yeah, as far as prayer needs go, we need servant leaders and we need residents. So if you guys can keep that in your prayers. Pray for our current residents and servant leaders because what they're doing in their time is hard. It is hard work. And, you know, digging up trauma and hurt and even, you know, having to come to terms with the things you've done to other people over your life of addiction is difficult. It is a hard road to go through. And so they could use prayer for that. We have a couple staff positions that need to be filled. We're looking for a building and maintenance person, someone with remodeling and construction experience, and we're looking for a man's counselor, so. Yeah,
Would you have a problem if I reached out to Good News Garage? People from all over, they have a vehicle, and they, say they buy a new vehicle, and they donate their vehicle to Good News Garage, and sometimes there's trucks there and stuff, and then they give them to people that can put them to good use if they're in need of it. Would you mind if I reached out to
no,
them?
go right ahead,
I will do that.
right on. Anything else?
You gonna have a list of things that we need for people to, or is it posted somewhere?
You guys get our newsletter?
Yeah,
It's on our newsletter, which I think is on the board downstairs.
The latest one is probably still in my mailbox.
Okay. Yeah. All right. I mean, yeah.
I know I said this before, and I'm gonna say it again, thank you for all the wonderful work that you do, and, the attitude that you have, and the way you help people, is really good, God, and
Thanks. Well, thanks for supporting us. It means a lot. Prayerfully, financially, it makes a huge difference.
So just as an FYI, Josh is not only our missionary that we support at his mansion, but he's a member of our church as well. And so he's part of our fellowship. Goes motorcycle riding with us when we let him know we're doing that.
Most of us is his kids grow.
Yeah, his kids. Yeah. So the last 11 years has been a blessing. Thank you.
It's been a blessing for us as well. We love this place.
Do you have specific prayer needs for you and your family that we can be praying for?
I mean, I have specific prayer. So I wasn't sure if I'd bring this up or not anyways, but since you asked. I have been meeting with a few surgeons the last 10 months about my shoulders. So I have like really advanced arthritis. Like they tell me I've got 65-year-old shoulders. And doing what I do for a living is becoming very difficult. And their consensus and second opinions have all been pretty much the same, which is I need to start looking for a new way to live. So that leaves me in a weird spot because working with my hands and fixing cars and equipment and building is something that I've done my whole life, and I don't know what else to do. So I either need a miraculous healing of my shoulders or I've only got a few years left of doing what I do. So yeah, that's a big one. Thanks.